Hi again. I'm going to be working today on hopefully which will be my final piece of this Dark Angels painting tutorial. I know it's taken a while. I've done about 4 hours already on this and it's not done yet, but like I said, this is a project that, first of all, is a little bit higher quality than this guy is, has more detail than this guy is, and if you're doing them all at the same time, it's faster anyways. All we have left to do is the edge highlighting on the armor, finishing up the gold, and the like extra little details in some places, and like the plasma. So, actually, speaking of plasma, I'm going to start with that. I want to make some of this close to my last step. Okay, so I'm using a little bit of Game Color Magic Blue, and the majority of what I'm using is, Vallejo Game Color. Obviously, if you've been watching, you've known I've used some GW paints and washes and stuff as well, but I like the Game Color. And this is just going to be our Plasma Gun color. The Energy color. Now, you don't have to do this blue. I've seen people do it in purple, and purple's really nice looking too. Especially against the green. But this is just more traditional, and it's matching the Dark Angels. I've already painted it because the plasma can is blue. I'm not going to be concentrating on any OSL. Though, if you really, really wanted to, after you assemble this guy, you could really, really dilute some of this color and paint it over any areas you think would be getting a good amount of color. Okay, a little bit of spillover, but that's okay. That's okay. Easy to correct. In fact, all you have to do to correct that is just a little bit of Mephiston red. And your problem's already solved. Okay, but that's not the only place I'm going to put the blue. Also going to have blue be the color for these little cords on the back of his head. Yeah, so just using the edge of your brush, you can just get that. And I'm also going to use it on this wire here. Again, mostly just the edge of your brush. Going over it. You don't really need to try to get the sides too well because you're mostly going to be seeing him from an angle where that blue shows up anyways. Or, if you see him from an angle where, you can catch the wire, it's not going to be that noticeable where you're going to care. So that's that base coat color. Next, I'm going to work on the gold. So, I know I'm bouncing back and forth, but one of the reasons for that is because when you're doing this, you're going to want to do steps somewhat out of order. Or out of order. You don't want to work on one area at once, because then if you do a wash or something, you're stuck with not being able to continue on the project. Now, when you're doing more than one of these at the same time, you might be able to do one area at once, because except for in the instance of washes. Because if you You know, say you're working on like the armor. Because even if you did a even if I did the edge highlighting where I use retarder, usually by the time you come back to the first one, it'll be dry anyways, even with the retarder. But, you know, it's still just something you want to keep an eye on. But I'm going to use my favorite wash. Make sure you mix it up. Seraphim Sepia. This is my favorite wash to go over golds. If you want a rich gold without it being a red gold. The red gold wouldn't be bad. You could use Curb or Crimson on this if you want to not have to. If you're doing this on a budget and you don't want to buy another wash. Actually, the Seraphim Sepia is not going to be just for the gold. I'm going to take it. I'm going to hit the gold. I'm also going to hit the handle of the sword. And Seraphim Sepia is not horribly overpowering. It's one of the reasons why I like it so much for this. Because it's very good at tinting and shading without ruining too much of the undercoat. Also, if you get a little bit on this cloak, it's okay. When it dries, it'll just add some little bit of shade around the area that it got on. Not to mention, it will just looks almost like just a lighter Agrax Earthjade. As I said, it's not a too horribly strong wash, and that's one of the reasons why I like it. This is one of the ones that you can use without having to be horribly concerned about the results. Plus, these gold is going to be re-highlighted anyways. Let's see, I'll get it in there. The gold's going to be highlighted anyways in the end before we're done. So this Seraphim Sepia, no matter what it dulls, will be gone over again, and whatever it dulls will be brought back up. A decent amount. Try not to do too horribly heavy. Of course, if you get a little bit of somewhere you don't want it, always go in and just soak it up a bit with a semi-damp brush. Okay, that actually, for the most part, looks pretty good. Okay, that is going to need some time to dry, though. But I am satisfied with it at the present moment. So let's see if that blue dried. It looks like it is. Okay. Plasma, it's going to look like it's glowing a bit. So now I'm going to take some electric blue. Put that on my palette. You don't need a lot. So again, we're not covering too much of an area. And you want get just a little bit amount on your brush. You don't need to thin it. For what you're doing, you don't need to thin it. To get a little bit on your brush. Hold it. Make sure it's not too wet. This is almost a dry brush, but not quite as dry as a dry brush. I just realized there was gold in this thing, but that's okay. Hit some of the this cable a little bit. Cable's on the back of his head a little bit. Going across. And you can come in here and do it like this. And when you do it this way, you can get the raised areas this is just highlighting it a little bit. At the top, we'll be highlighting it again anyways, so if you get it more in the recesses, it's not quite a problem. Just as long as you can tell both the colors are still there. Okay. Okay, the wires we're going to leave alone. The only other place we're going to do anything else with is the actual gun. And for that, you have a few options. I'm just going to use dead white. If you wanted to, you could use Ghost Gray if you still wanted to keep a blue tint in it, or a Wolf Gray. For me, that's moving a little bit too much into the gray spectrum, and I don't want to do that. Okay. You just want to get a little bit of white. You want to get the white on your brush, and you're going to want to wipe off most of it. So, you know, get it on your brush and wipe off most of it. So now we're almost to a dry brush. We're just going to very lightly hit it. Very lightly. Hit it with the edge. So that it looks like it's glowing. And see, and at a distance, it's going to look nice. It's going to look blue, but it's also going to look like it's glowing. And that's what you're going for. If you want to get a better effect, you can always hit that with an airbrush. It doesn't take much effort, just as long as you're hitting a little bit smaller area with each color. And you can also use the airbrush to get your glow effect. And since while I have a little bit of dead white out, I have the opportunity. Try to work on his eyes, see if I can. See if I can get his eyes filled in. There's not much room in there. So the real question is, can I? Well, the answer is yes. Yes, I can. Eyes in this particular model are not very large. That's okay. A little bit over, not a problem. Like I said, always have a way of fixing it if you mess up a little bit. Usually just requires doing a step or two over again. For instance, in this case, I'm just going back with my tan color. And it over where I went a little bit over. There's other ways to do eyes as well. You can always start with the eye first. It's always an option. And then do do the eyes and then do the actual color of the face. Just work around the eyes and do the rest of the head. That's if you want to have more precision with the eyes, because it's easier for you to go back in and do that. And also, since I just did the eyes, I'm going to finish them up. And all you need to finish them up is, if you want to do a pupil, it's a little bit of black. If I can ever find one. Black works. You can also do like a really dark gray or dark blue as well. Whatever you find preferable to yourself, preferable to your style. Any of those colors will have basically the same effect at a distance, so it's fine. The benefit of doing something like a dark blue, though, is that when you get up close, it has a little bit more character. In fact, I might just do that. Very, very, very small amount of Stormy Blue, and and Stormy Blue is a very weird color because it's very thin, almost inky. But over white, it will cover great. You just want very, very tip. Touch in there. And I don't know how easily you can see it, but gives your model just a little bit of extra character. And then as a little bit of a cleanup, another cleanup step, I'm just going to take the small amount of Racklin Flesh Shade, that shade that we use to go in around there, and we're going to hit around the eyes. You don't want to fill in the eyes, but you want to go around the eyes. And when that dries, he'll have a little bit of character in the face. Be able to see his eyes. There will clearly be eye there. Anyways, moving on. One of the only things we have left to do, actually, at this point, is, besides finish up the gold, is finish up the armor. And I know I've been kind of holding off on this, but I'm going to take some Scorpion Green, or Scorpion Green as it was called from Game Jovi. You can use Mood Green too, which I have here. I'm just not going to use it to keep it consistent with the rest of them. And wherever it is, I'm going to use the Minotaur drying retarder. You can use most drying retarders, but I'm using the Minotaur one specifically. In this case, because it keeps it more of a liquid. And that's actually one of the issues with like the Vallejo drying retarder that I have. When you use the Vallejo drying retarder, it makes it closer to a gel. Anyways, you just need only a drop of it in there to keep it nice and wet for a while. Mix that together. And I said, if you don't know what retarder is, Simple explanation. It is a type of medium that slows down the drying process of the paint. So that when you go in with your brush, so that when you want to paint on a certain color or something, you get it on your brush, it will dry more slowly. Allow you to work longer. Okay. So, all we're doing with this is, where you can, I do edge highlight. Keep it thin, and you want to hit mostly the upper edges. Go around his wrist here. I am just going to hit the top edge. Because I feel if I were to do the bottom edge, it'd be too much. If you can, use the side of your brush. And the idea here is just to add an outline to your armor. It's to bring the contrast up. Keep it as neat and straight as you can. Some places it's just not going to want to cooperate with you, and you might have to draw it in with your tip. That's okay. And you can be as neat or as messy as you want to be here. Well, you don't want to be too messy, but you want to try to be neat here. But if you feel like you did something a little too messy, one of the benefits of the method that we painted with here today, or the method we painted with to do this model, remember correctly that we just get almost a solid mutation green color over the entire body, is that the cleanup is as simple as going back with a mutation green and hitting the areas you want to clean up. One thing you might want to keep in mind though with the drying retarder though is that it might thin out the paint a bit and make it less obvious that you did the line there. You can always just reinforce it with more. Anyways, you're just doing this over panels that you want to see catch light where they are. And catching light isn't always as simple as hitting every side. It's getting in the way at this point. As long as I hold it by the gun, it should be okay. I know if you see a lot of GW models with their edge highlighting. The edge highlighting is like around every side, every panel, every edge. And I'm not a huge fan of the way they do that. Because when they do it like that, you make it almost look like the colors, make it look like the light's coming from every direction. And that's just not true. And it takes away a lot of that reality that you can hit. But one effective place to put it though is around areas where it means dark. Though, as I said, you still want to have that idea of what direction the light's coming from. And where it's hitting on here. Because without that, you are just kind of doing random patches of green. It's actually a long process too. So if you don't have the patience for this, there's other methods you can go and do. It doesn't have to be like this. But of course, that is your preference. Knee pad. Knee pad, I'm just going from the sides and going up to the top. Or in this case, back down. So just hitting the top side. Shoes or the boots. And the outer edge. This also reinforces the shapes a bit. Which is another good thing about edge highlighting. It helps give you that definition back that we lost a bit of when we did the almost solid mutation green. But that was, and for good reason. I know how I talked about you don't have to hit every edge, but these bottom edges would catch light too. As well as the top edges. And they would actually.
Sorry. I put all 8 of the screws for the house numbers. I told you to.
See, I'm not going around and hitting all of the edges of the shoulder pads. Sorry for the silence. I was talking to my mother. Something was irritating her, and I didn't want it to be on stream. But our main focus is this is adding definition back in. See, I'm going in. I'm going. Ooh, that's a little too wet. That just meant I had too much paint on my brush. Going around, hitting edges, hitting corners. And as you can see, even on the inside panels here, I'm going following the contours of some of the items that you can see, as it reinforces the green around the object. As I said, I'm going through over this, and I'm just trying my best to keep it in frame while doing this, which is making it a little bit more difficult, be as precise as I normally like to be. But that's okay. This step is easily able to be cleaned up. With a little bit of mutation green. Like I said, just help yourself reinforce these shapes. That one had a chunk in it. And worry about finishing this step before you worry about things like going back and correcting it. Correcting any mistakes this might have caused. If you try to go back in the middle, you might lose your spot, you might miss things, and it's just easier to do it all at once. Actually, some of the places it's a little bit better that's not as strong. Because it adds that little glint in there, but it doesn't overpower the actual bean color. And that's nice. Okay. This step can actually be as long or as short as you want it to be. Depending on how much attention to detail you want to pay. How much time you want to spend doing this, and all that jazz. I'll try to hit these little rivets as well, since they're green. These inside curves kind of have a sharp edge to them. Hitting there. Okay. Get the outer edges a little bit as well. Okay. Now, That step's almost done. That the what's on your palette's not going to dry anytime soon. At least not within the next couple hours. So really, it's almost done. You can go back and forth with the mutation green, go back with some mutation green to clean up, and the scorpion green to clean up the edges as well, as much as you want. But at this point, I'm going to end that because I got the majority of it done, and I do want to finish this project, and I would like to keep it. Well, hi, by the way, hello, Mini Webu. Sorry I did not look up at you. I was concentrating on the edge highlighting. How are you doing today? But anyways, I do want to finish this project, and it is nearly done. I think I quite literally have just the gold and the like handle and stuff to do. So I'm going to start with the gold. And the gold's going to be simple because all you have to do is get yourself out a brighter gold. In this case, I have polished gold from Vallejo Game Color. You can see it's a brighter looking gold, and you know, Dark Angels, they take a pretty good care of their armor. Put some of that on your palette. And find yourself your thinner medium. Add that. Get that mixed up. Hopefully it's not too hopefully it's not too thin. And if you think it's a little too thin, you can always add some more of the gold to it and get it a little bit thicker so it'll cover a little bit better. Okay. Now you're not going to want to get too much on your brush. These are going to be light highlights. Okay, so with this, we're just hitting the upper edges and the outermost points of any of the gold parts. Hopefully without messing up anything else. Since we used Seraphim Sepia, we shouldn't have to go back with the Glorious Gold and re-highlight anything. Or, you know, bring the base color back up. So as long as we're hitting the upper parts, the outer areas, places where light's going to glint off the model, it's going to look bad. It's going to look nice. To help bring up whatever the wash dulled a little bit. It's going to give that gold more definition as well. It's not wanting to stay on the pegs I made for it very much longer. Well, that's okay. We're nearly done. It's almost ready to just be put together. Now this right here is another step you can take a little further than what I'm showing you. Because there's nothing stopping you from adding some silver or just taking a really, really nice bright silver and going over and hitting very, very edges of any of these areas just to add a little bit more definition. Okay. With that done, you got the rope on his belt and the handle. Well, after I hit the eagle. And this handle left to do. And you'll have a nice, nice tabletop quality miniature done. So anyways, for the actual handle part, I'm going to take some of the dark flesh tone I had originally. Put that on my palette. And I'm going to add some blood red to it. And now I said this was kind of a good base for like a reddish leather color. So by adding some red to it, you bring the red up more. And also adding red to it, you don't get it too fleshy looking, you get more of a red look to it. And you just want to take a little bit of it, and you're just going to hit. You're just going to hit it. The upper areas, places that would be naturally highlighted. And since this is a smaller area, you don't have to do too much with this. One simple highlight and one simple shade should work. It's not the focus of the model. It's not going to be a problem if you don't hit, a great amount of it. Okay, let's take this off. Okay, now all we have left is the rope on here. I'm going to do something different with that. We're going to go in a different direction. And I'm going to take Filthy Brown. I think Filthy Brown's the color I want here. Get that nice and mixed up. Because again, it's contrast. We want contrast. I'm going to take this Filthy Brown on my palette, a very, very small amount of the dark flesh tone, because it's really powerful in this color. Add it to the Filthy Brown, just so that we get that saturation. Well, just so that the flesh tone isn't lost completely in the highlight. And it's almost kind of really, really ochre-y, like a red ochre almost. Obviously a different color from the dark flesh tone and the blood red. And what we're going to just do is go through and we're just going to hit it. Try to define the rope segments as best you can. With a little dot of this color. can see, adding that little bit of definition there really brings out the rope. Makes it look different from everything else around it. And just overall gives it a nice little appeal. Anyways. He's basically done. At this point, all you need to do is start putting them together. As I say, he's mostly done. I will off camera probably do some touching up. And you can also, of course, do some tiny touching up and go back and get any extra bits you want to get done on them as you see fit. But otherwise, you have your Dark Angels captain. Tactical Squad captain. Completed. And for a tabletop quality paint job, for a beginner, you can do this. Almost anyone can do this. You know, there's a lot of different, as I said, there's a lot of different things in doing these guys like this that helps you learn brush control and, you know, without going in without having brush control. It helps you learn brush control and help you practice a lot of different simple techniques that are just going to be really, really helpful to develop yourself further and further into your painting career. But as I said, I wanted to try to get this done in one segment since I've been posting only about an hour's worth of time on YouTube from every single one of these videos. And I'm at about an hour right now. I might be back on later, and if I am back on later, I'm going to start on something else. It might be just commission work, or I might start working on some of my Dark Eldar to celebrate the Dark Eldar coming out. We'll see when that time comes. But until then, I thank my viewers that come and watch me live, and I thank everyone else that watches me on YouTube. If you ever want to catch me live, the best way to find out would be to follow the link in the description below. Click and then click the follow on my Twitch page. You should get a notification. At least I think you'll get a notification in an email if you're registered to Twitch and have an email registered to it. As soon as I go live, or within a few minutes of me going live, and then you can come check me out. Definitely, I'll be definitely doing more and more of this the more I get to chat with people. And I just thank you for watching. Also, if you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Every little bit helps. Even constructive criticism helps. If you have something to say, well, I didn't like the way you did this, that's great. I'd love to hear it so that I can change to make it better. Just as long as you're not, bear in mind this is supposed to be a paint job anyone can achieve that looks really good on the tabletop. Anyways, thank you once again. Have a wonderful day.